How you doing? How you doing? My name is Antonio. My page is Unapologetically Black. I ask that you like and subscribe to the page. What today I want to talk to you today about is the continuation of the decivilization of America, and that is shown again in another example in the Congress sanctioned Adam Schiff. You have to ask, why did Congress sanction Adam Schiff? Adam Schiff was sanctioned for investigating Donald Trump, Russian collusion being a threat to American security. And we have to ask ourselves, when we look at the uncivilizing of America, how does acts like that happen? You see the Republicans are rallying behind Trump to support his corruption at the expense of weakening America. So you have to understand this decivilization is causing America to be weakened from within its very Congress. This has devastating effects on American people, and it has a way of raping the American people out of wealth and leaving us vulnerable to other global affairs and events. I did a video prior saying that Donald Trump was a Manchurian candidate. I state this for various reasons. I will show you in the video that I did a year earlier why I say he was a Manchurian candidate for the Russians.
The Republican-led House voting to censure Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff for his role in the investigations into former President Donald Trump. But that announcement quickly turning into chaos on the House floor.
With 6 answering present, the resolution adopted. Without objection, the motion to consider is laid on the table. House will be in order.
And you probably heard it there in the background. You heard the Democratic lawmakers chanting the word shame. This is a rare move by the House. Schiff now becoming the third member in the 21st century to be censured.
This century. The last representative to be censured, we remember this, Paul Gosar 2 years ago. Why was he censured? Because he tweeted out an animated image of him murdering a colleague, a Democratic congresswoman, and threatening to kidnap President Biden. And he was censured rightly for that behavior.
Here's for Marjorie Taylor Greene when she says Logie Boebert was throwing red meat to her base. Paul Gosar did the same thing with the attack on AOC. And if you notice, he has the images of the Haitians coming in at the border. So the hate is directed towards her. They're feeling that she is protecting of black immigrants coming across the border, and Biden is looking the other way, so he attacks Biden at the end. This is the decivilization of America. This is what the Democrats censored Paul Gosar for versus what the Republicans censored Adam Schiff for.
Adam Schiff was censured for this behavior, the behavior of simply doing his job, of investigating Donald Trump's behavior. They dropped the $16 million fine that was on the table last week, but he still has now been censured. Only the third representative this century to do so.
This video I did prior, maybe about 2 years ago, indicates the financial ties that Trump had with Russia. It also shows that Trump and a Russian bank shared a lawyer together, meaning they had a means of communication which was protected by attorney-client privilege. You have to understand that that is a very dangerous threat to the security of America. And then for Trump to go back and then to side with Putin over the rest of the government, the FBI, the CIA, shows you he cannot go against his master. Trump was a sleeper cell. The video shows countless accounts where Trump money was intertwined with the Russians. This how you can clearly see Trump was failing in business constantly, but what kept him afloat was the Russians. You have to understand, they've been propping Trump up to be run for president since the 80s. So the Russians kept him in the back pocket just in case.
Senate Intelligence Committee has released a redacted version of its fifth and final report on Russian meddling in the 2016 election. The latest volume, nearly 1,000 pages, is the result of a 3.5-year bipartisan investigation. It finds, quote, the Russian government engaged in an aggressive, multifaceted effort to influence or attempt to influence the outcome of the 2016 presidential election.
At the meeting, ensuring he was the last to turn up. But as the pair sat down together, the US president delivered a wink and some effusive praise.
Well, first of all, Mr. President, I'd like to congratulate you on a really great World Cup, one of the best ever, from what everybody tells me, one of the best ever.
In a break with diplomatic convention, the pair held a one-on-one meeting with no official agenda, leaving some nervous about what might be agreed with no advisers in the room to keep check.
President Trump brought up the issue of so-called Russian interference. The Russian state never interfered and doesn't plan to interfere in US internal affairs, including in the electoral process.
Putin's answer may not have been a surprise, but Trump's was when he was asked who he believed, his own intelligence director who says Russia did interfere in the election, or Putin.
Dan Coates came to me and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be.
Anybody watching this with any common sense is clear to see that Trump is under the thumb of Putin. And when you look at the financial ties, you can easily see why he is under the thumb of Putin. Then when you look at his policies, you can see how he worked to benefit Putin. You can also look at his policies and see how those policies negatively affected America. So you can see how he's working against his own country in order to benefit Putin. So it is clear that Trump was a Manchurian candidate, somewhat of a sleeper cell for the Russians. They've been propping him up financially for quite some time. So let's be clear, Republican Senate did an investigation and found that Russia did interfere in the election, and we all know that they interfered in the election in order to benefit Donald Trump. So you have to ask yourself, why did they want to interfere in our election in order to propel Donald Trump to the White House? And why was they so sure that Donald Trump would do their bidding?
When it comes to Trump and Russia, possible ties between the Trump campaign and Russia.
It's easy to feel numb to the details.
George Papadopoulos,
Roger Stone, Cohen has been Paul Manafort, Don Jr.
And every time we hear Trump respond,
Never any collusion, Russian collusion hoax, because there was no collusion.
but no matter how many times Trump says this, here's what we can't lose track of. We now have evidence of 3 major connections between the Trump campaign and Russia. We know that people working for Trump were willing to work with Russia to help him. And it's possible they broke the law to do so. Here's how we know. FBI Special Counsel Robert Mueller has tied several top Trump officials to Russia. So let's try to organize them. Donald Trump Jr. and Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor, attended a meeting in Trump Tower with a Russian lawyer named Natalia Veselnitskaya, who promised documents and information from the Russian government that would reveal dirt on Hillary Clinton.
So you have to ask yourself, why did the Russians choose one side over the other? Why was they so clear that the Trump policies would benefit them?
So there was the Alpha Bank servers communicating with the Trump organization for some reason. What's that Russian bank got to do with anything? Then in the transition, there's Jared Kushner meeting with the head of VEB Bank for some reason. What's that Russian bank got to do with it? Then, not long after Trump got inaugurated, along comes another inexplicable, seemingly random intersection between Trump world and yet another Russian bank. The next one we learned about was, I think, the biggest Russian bank of all, a bank called Sberbank, which announced in March that they had hired new counsel to represent them in a big, complicated, very expensive case. And they said their new counsel was going to be Donald Trump's personal lawyer, Mark Kasowitz.
While Donald Trump was president, Donald Trump and a Russian bank that had been sanctioned by the government shared legal counsel. So they was able to communicate amongst each others and maintain attorney-client privilege. This is a form of deception that it can. This video I did prior, maybe about 2 years ago, indicates the financial ties that Trump had with Russia. It also shows that Trump and a Russian bank shared a lawyer together, meaning they had a means of communication which was protected by attorney-client privilege. You have to understand that that is a very dangerous threat to the security of America. And then for Trump to go back and then to side with Putin over the rest of the government, the FBI, the CIA, shows you he cannot go against his master. Trump was a sleeper cell.